I just put out if anybody has any interesting projects to share. Kurt was talking about he's been doing a lot of exploring data archiving this morning, working with a lot of files. And I was sharing about that I was talking with people about herbarium data, how to make our Vera repository a good home for our herbarium data as a backup. But it's kind of where we had gotten with the conversations.
Like herbarium as in like basil, rosemary, herbarium?
Yeah, so we have a large collection from, well, I mean, many collectors. University of Cincinnati has a big bryophyte collection, vascular plants collection. And so we are trying to figure out a good solution because iDigBio, I believe, is no longer going to host like the images. They'll take the metadata, but not the images. And so we're trying to figure out how to, implement a solution, including our repository as a home for some of that content.
Neat. Oh, I'm gonna have to check this out.
So Deep Blue is a Vera repository, I believe.
Oh, okay.
In Michigan. So
yeah, we know Deep Blue. Our HPC Center has started back-ending that with our tape archive. So, but what I like is how our Deep Blue repository has a web interface for it, because our archive is hard to use just straight. You have to tar things up and use Globus to get it in, which for our imaging users who are used to like just their Windows computers collecting data, there's a big learning curve there. So that's something I've been pondering recently.
I don't know if we just want to go around and say where everybody's from and what brings them to the data facing track. That'd be a way to kind of start our year off.
Yeah. Well, I can go first then. I'm Deb McCaffrey. I'm one of the co-coordinators here with Amy. I am from Michigan Medicine, which is the academic medical center of University of Michigan. And I work in their IT department as a research liaison. And health sciences and life sciences are big data users. Like, they use big data, and there's also a lot of data users. Like, those sciences are all about the data. So that's what's attracted me to the data facing track in particular. Let's see, anybody want to go next?
Well, I can go next as I'm the other coordinator for this track. And as I mentioned, I'm a librarian at the University of Cincinnati, assistant director for research and data services. And I'm focused on, helping researchers with efficiencies in data management. So I think about data from the management, from the human, I have this phrase now, human data interface, because I'm trying to get the human to do good stuff, right, in that process. Not really as much about the systems that, can move data from place to place or something like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to have to steal that.
Jacobs, I think you're muted.
Sure. Sorry, yeah, I'll jump in. I'm kind of new to this. I work at UC Riverside. I'm in the central IT umbrella organization, and more specifically in the relatively newly in the research computing group. So my director kind of pointed me out to various resources through CARC. And so I'm kind of exploring the different tracks to see what sort of fits with my tasks that I'll be taking on. So I'll be a little bit of a fly on the wall here, but the herbarium thing made me curious because we have a long-standing herbarium at our campus also. So I don't know, I think they're using their own kind of homebrew. I think it's a FileMaker based database for their internal use, and then they export that data out to some central resource, but I'm not as familiar with their setup. So anyway, thank you. Happy New Year, by the way.
Happy New Year to you too.
Shall I hand it off maybe, or do you want to do that?
Sure. Maybe you want to pick somebody you can introduce.
Yeah, how about Kurt? Kurt's sitting right to my right on the screen. So
Thank you. I'm Kurt Showmaker, and I work at the Jackson Laboratory, and we do a lot of bioinformatics and data science type things. We have a HPC cluster and utilize cloud resources. So, and like Deb said, we have a lot of data and we process a lot of data. So we kind of just hit all the big data problems, and I'm just trying to pick up solutions and participate in this community. So thank you, and I'll pass it on to Jeff.
Hi, so my name is Jeff Dryad. I'm at the UMass Boston, and I'm in Central IT, responsible for research computing. And I will say that we are pretty immature as far as our central data services. Not to say that we don't have people working with a lot of data, but most of that is being handled by individual lab groups buying their own servers and stuff like that right now. So that's where I am at this point. And I'll hand it off to Melissa, I think.
Hey everybody, thanks Jeff. Good afternoon. Excuse me, it's afternoon for me, so good morning if you're on the West Coast. I work at San Diego Supercomputer Center, but I'm based on the East Coast. I have a number of roles there. I work in the Research Data Services Division, and I have some grants around data, both public access and then FAIR. I also work on the EarthCube Coordination Office, and I do a lot of policy work with federal policy, trying to help facilitate practice changes to keep up with what's coming out of the federal government. So that's me. I don't get a chance. I do attend a lot of the people CARC meetings. I don't get a chance to come to the data meetings very often, but my focus is on the data, although not the highly technical side. I don't work on systems. So that's me. I'm happy to be here, and we've got a workshop coming up in a couple of months. So maybe at the end of the call, I'll have a chance, or actually it's next month, mid-month. So at the end of the call, I'd be happy to do a little plug for that, because we're looking for people on this more research computing IT side to participate in this meeting as well as others. So great, thanks. Didn't hand it off. Janal?
Oh, yes. I didn't know that my name would be called right away.
Sorry.
Greeting, Happy New Year's. Glad to catch you, all of you.
Yeah, we're just giving little intros about where we work and what we do.
Oh, okay. I'm the lead HPC engineer for the University of Texas at Dallas. And I have started the HPC program here along with one more person, Giovanni. These all member of Campus Champion. Currently, we have 2 senior directors, and both of them have PhDs, and Dr. Jerry Perez and Dr. Chris Simmons, and they had been into HPC area over 20 years. And we are providing support to the university, both on research facing and system facing. I used to be a jack of all trade. Now that we have more engineers, so my duties has been shifted, but I actively join both research facing and system facing. I manage HPC storage and also the software.
Cool. And let's see, Kat, I don't think you've gotten yet.
Great. Yeah, I'm Kat Kozier. I'm also from UC Riverside, and I am the data librarian here. So I focus more on the data management aspect of it. I've attended a lot of different CARC groups, so usually bounce between this and people.
Cool. And how about Melissa?
Yeah, hi, I did. I introduced
Oh,
myself. No
ah,
worries.
there we go.
All
But
right.
Jeff,
You turned off your video. I think everybody's gone now. Cool. All right. But yeah, considering this is right after holidays, we just wanted to have something nice and easy. Just if anybody's working on something cool, or if they have problems they're running into right now, this is just a session to just kind of bring up whatever you want.
Just a tangent.
Yeah.
The note stock that you gave, it says request to edit access, so that might be why people haven't signed in.
I will fix that.
You know,
it's always me.
this is Janelle Perez from UT Dallas again. Yesterday I was working on something and something was crossing my mind. I said, next time I have an opportunity, I'll discuss these things. So I'm finding out every institution who's running HPC, they have either Slurm or people who use build software with different technology, things like SPAC. And I know we're paying thousands of dollars on different hardware software. Can somebody in our community write a grant that will enable people with the Slurm and or SPACs, things like this kind of community with the money, and we all can get free benefit instead of somebody individually, you know, people who has money, they're taking advantage of that kind of support. This is a core product from Exceed or for any other organizations, and all getting together. Can you have a consortium? I was thinking about that.
Well, I can speak for myself. That's not something I have expertise. If you're looking for people who might understand that more, I'd check out the system spacing trick. But just in general, there's also another side to CARC, that's the interest in working groups. So that's kind of precisely what you're describing, is like you get a group of people interested in working on a particular problem, and then they actually transition to a working group to actually make a deliverable. So if you'd be interested in that process, we could hook you up with our logistics group, who could tell you like all the process to actually getting a group started.
Okay. I mean, groups are already there, like people who run SPAC at the University of California. They have great grant, a lot of money. But what I want to do is like other people join it and tell them like how important they
Oh,
are.
I see.
And then we throw our money in there or support in there. And when they see like maybe 100 universities is supporting that program, and like Open HPC, things like that, which are core product, and behind those communities. And right now, you know, those individual communities are doing their work, but thousands of us are using it. I just think that, you know, it will make our life much easier in HPC community if we all involve, like we're doing to the Exceed program, and other smaller groups, we show our support, and they will eventually return it back to us. It's going to be an win-win situation for us.
So Janelle, can you write that down a little bit better than what I've done in the notes document? I have to admit, I don't know the terms so well. So if you wouldn't mind to maybe put a summary in the notes document, then maybe we can also circulate that as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
But just in general, feel free to just email the People Network with stuff like this. You can advertise jobs, you can advertise like workshops, you can advertise groups like this. That is all fair game for the People Network email. Ooh, and we have a question now. Various data repositories, is there a resource that lists them? That is a great question.
So there is a document, I'll try to hunt down, there's a spreadsheet, I believe, about different repositories and who has what. I'll try to hunt it down. I think it's from Harvard. So.
Thank you. Yeah, again, I'm new to this, so I probably am, way behind everybody else, but I see Kat here who's given some talks on campus and mentioned a number of repositories, and then Amy, you mentioned Vera today, and I'm hearing over time about these various repositories, which sound fantastic for all kinds of specific needs and so forth. And I guess I'm curious if there's sort of maybe like a Wikipedia page on data repositories or open source repositories or something that kind of could be a one-stop shop, more or less, of what sort of repositories are there out there, costs, if any, what they're geared for, what their strengths and weaknesses are, that kind of thing. I don't know. Maybe that exists, maybe it doesn't. So
I found a link to one matrix that is from Harvard. It doesn't seem to list the Vera, but
well, also, yeah, can we clarify? Because there's like, from a data librarian aspect, when you say data repositories, I think subject something that's already filled, right? But then whenever you expanded, it sounded more like you're looking for infrastructure. So which is, like Vera, right, would be the infrastructure on which a repository may be created.
yeah, maybe it's a little bit more complex question in that regard. I'm thinking about when I interact with faculty and they have data storage needs or are looking for more uniform places or ways to store data. What are some things that they could be looking for? Maybe some directories of resources like this that they could start looking at. And of course, they could certainly talk to data librarians who can interpret this a lot better, but just as a kind of a starter point. So I'm seeing some links pop up in the chat, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, so I guess it kind of depends which way you're going. Like, are they looking for data or are they trying to share data?
I think more the latter is what I'm coming across. And again, I'm fairly new in this capacity, but a common problem I think that I'm being made aware of by various researchers is where do I put my data and how do I organize my data, and what are some of the structures, or are there some standardized ways of storing data? And maybe this is a common problem, but I've only been in this capacity for less than 6 months, although I've worked in the university for 20 plus years. But in this more research computing focus that I've taken on, that seems to be a predominant problem I'm coming across, is where to store it, how to store it, rather than just on a local hard drive somewhere. What are some good, best practices?
Well, also, if they are, and I'm sorry, just because we're at the same institution,
Sure,
although
yeah,
I know there's other University of California folks here. So if they're looking to share their data, not their raw data, like share the final product, they could use Dryad. So, which is one of the products that is available to the California UC, as opposed to, I see there's a couple of other UCs here that are not California.
Yeah, and in fact, Kat, the reason I brought this up was exactly the talk that I went to where the library spoke about Dryad, and then when Amy mentioned Vera, and I realized these may be not exactly aligned, but these sorts of resources, I guess I'm looking at.
So it looks like Vera is more like the software to make your own data repository.
Okay.
So it's more like what do you call it, Terraform, that kind of thing.
Okay.
But yeah, places where you can actually put data, Dryad's one. Open Science Framework is kind of one. We had a talk on that a few months ago. That's more like trying to collect all the data artifacts into one place, but then you still have to like make sure you've shared it with people on Google Drive. It doesn't just share automatically. Kind of also depends a bit on one, size of data, and then two, who the funder is. Like NIH, for example, has a bunch of kind of repositories for like specific directorates in NIH. I don't think they call them directorates, but whatever. Like they've got specific places to put your data based on like which.
Yeah, like the protein bank.
Yeah.
The genome data. Yeah, and NIH is, I love looking at the medical side of libraries and data because they seem to have their act together more than like everyone else sort of follows. But they have a ton of different data repositories and ways of sharing and things that are interconnected within the whole NIH universe. So it also depends on what kind of data. So we're just talking about like specific for funding or the funder is, but if it is something that is has like personally identifiable information in it, then it has to go through a type of data cleaning or find a repository that allows that kind of data to be stored securely. And then that way when people ask to access, they actually request to access it, as opposed to things that are completely open, like data, Dryad is completely open. There's a lot of different ones that are completely open. So you have to identify what type of data it is that way also.
Let's not forget about user agreements. You know, if you're incorporating other people's data in your data, you may not have the appropriate user agreements to publish it anywhere. So I think it's a good problem that the researchers are trying to document in a reproducible way and present their data, but it is a fairly complex problem. You know, and some institutions have policies on data publishing. So, you know, the university owns the data until whenever. So, you know, may or may not be able to be published. It depends on the, you know, the permissions and stuff like that. So, yeah. The NCBI is a great resource for that, but they have their own formats and everything. So once you get into there, you kind of have to just do what they want you to do. And then, you know, they have a curation process as well. So they can kick your data back if need be. But some of the other solutions I heard, I don't know about, you know, when you get into these like really big data sets, they don't, you know, it becomes even more of a problem, you know. If I was wanting to share, you know, so then the cloud solutions become, you know, something else, but then you're having to deal with the cost of having these kinds of solutions. So I don't know off the top of my head but I believe it was part of some of the recent ending of Exceed that they were trying to, you know, do a more of a data oriented data commons, you know, national solution, but I don't know where that is, or I can't point you to that, but that might be interesting to look into. But, you know, even all the good things like that do have a life cycle, you know, where, you know, Exceed was great and then Exceed's going to end. So that's,
Well, they're replacing it with something else. It just can't be called Exceed. But it's basically going to be the same.
Yeah, but Kurt, I also think, and I think, Deb, when you were talking about the OSF, I do also think like, this is where, you know, when you do the data management plan, you kind of think of all the steps in the process, and you have to think about what is needed for this data throughout the process. What are the different collaborators need? You know, if it's sensitive data, you know, thinking about the IRB process and protocol that'll govern this data. And so like, I think of like the OSF as being like when you're in the working mode, like collecting and collaborating and things, and then coming to find a repository where you can actually publish the data for sharing. And hopefully it's been well curated, but that's different from storage, right? Because storage doesn't have all the curation that goes on. And so just remembering where in the workflow are you and what does the data need at that particular point is also very important.
Yeah, good call, because I don't think we've mentioned that yet. Have you heard of the research data lifecycle?
So you're asking me, or?
Yep.
Oh, sorry, no, not in that specific term, no.
Yeah, so that's definitely a place to start. So the way I approach all these problems with supporting researchers is coming at it from the data. And I kind of just think of this whole data process and what technologies are available at my university that can help with this. Unfortunately for my researchers, it's like they have to string together a few different tools to actually get around the life cycle, which they would rather it be one thing, but that's hard and exciting and expensive.
Yeah, I see your point.
Ooh, thanks. I haven't seen the UCF one. This is nice.
I just wanted to make a note. I see, Deb, you dropped the Open Storage Network link in here. So I was a PI on that project and I'm still involved. So if anybody has any questions about the OSN, whether now or later, you know, feel free to reach out. And if I don't have the right answers, I'll connect you to somebody that does the systems development if you need something technical.
Yeah, so kind of the way I handle this is I just keep in mind all these different things that are available. And then I'll also have like institutional resources in mind. And I have researchers just describe what they're doing to me. And then I kind of narrow down in my head what solutions might meet most requirements for them. So like, for example, we have an advanced genomics core that does sequencing for research labs. That generates a lot of data, like in the terabyte range for a lot of projects. But it's a really interesting data set because it's kind of bimodal in size. There's a whole bunch of really big files and there's a whole bunch of really small files. The small files, those are the things that the researchers actually need to look at with their eyeballs. Whereas like the big files, that's what you compute on. And those are very different requirements. And so what we've done is we're working on taking the whole data set and that we deliver it to our tape archive because a lot of people don't actually do much with the big files. And then we deliver these smaller files that are kind of human consumable, and we're delivering them in Dropbox so that people can view them right away.
I see. Yeah, and from what you described, the thinking about, you know, meeting a researcher, discovering what their needs are, what kind of data they're talking about, the quantity of data, the availability of that data, the archival needs of that data. I'm going through that same process, again, fairly recently. A big part that's missing for me is sort of, well, now that I understand a little bit what you're trying to do, what are the best resources? And I don't know all those resources yet. And I've had to lean on the library folks a bit for some of these, which they've been great and very helpful. I would like to be a little more self-sufficient, and that's where my question came from. And I appreciate all the links everybody provided. This is great. Gives me a lot of homework.
Well, to be honest, I think you need to work with the library on a regular basis for a lot of this stuff because it's too much.
Sure. I'm not trying to sidestep or avoid. I just don't want to be the one who's crying wolf all the time, I guess.
Right.
Hey, Bart, I don't mind. Send me an email. I
Okay,
put
all
it
right.
down as a consultation. It's fine.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. And if you want to, we do have a Slack instance that we've been doing a very bad job of advertising. That's a great place to ask questions. You can ask questions on any of the email chains if you want, but I think Slack is easier to consume. Let me find the link. I'll put the Slack link in chat too for anybody who wants to join that. Oh yeah, it's pretty quiet right now, but I would love to see more people using it.
I'll also put a plug out for the Research Data Access and Preservation Association, RDAP. That's also a really great community to share questions, get engagement, attend educational events. I'll put some links in the chat for that as well and in our document.
But yeah, that's where groups like these are great because like there's new stuff coming all the time. And you can just throw out a question to the group and see what answers you come back with.
Well, that reminds me of special topics issue in a medical journal that I've been putting together about cyber infrastructure and related problems. So if anybody's interested in, displaying what solution they're running out, because these are common problems, and I got permission to kind of say, hey, let's open it up to some cyber infrastructure discussion and solutions. So I'll post that here in a second. But it is medical oriented, so.
Oh, that might be perfect. We've been looking for appropriate places to talk about our box migration process. We moved from Box to Dropbox, and it was complicated by the fact that we needed everything to be HIPAA aligned.
Before I took my current role, I was at a medical university, and the documentation I needed to provide to the administration to show them what we were trying to do. I mean, there's not available in a peer review kind of thing. So I'll paste that here. I'll paste this into the Slack as well.
Ooh.
Pretty open.
Ooh. Nice.
So if your colleagues think that might be interesting for you, or they have a project they've been doing that people need to, they want to put somewhere, that'd be a good spot for them to submit to, because it takes reviews and research or whatever. It's pretty open. I can't believe they let me have it so open. And hopefully we get to test how open it actually is, because I think I even they put opinions in there, an article on an opinion. So it'd be nice to have some documentation for these projects.
Nice. Oh, I will definitely ask around. I've been trying to get my department to publish a lot more. We're very insular.
Well, and it's hard to get, to go through a traditional manuscript about a cyber infrastructure solution or a workflow. It's kind of, a lot of people just say, I'm not interested in that. And, we're not interested in how it actually gets done. But, we're in the data track here. So we all understand there's a physicality between taking the data and processing it and then having results that are, able to be processed by others. So yeah, please share that.
Cool. Well, I'll mention something very excited that University of Michigan, like the whole school, just did. They started posting for a position that they call storage manager, that's going to kind of just manage the university's storage strategy in general, which is very exciting. It's kind of part of what I've been talking about, is just like getting from all the different steps is very hard. And I'm hoping that this position will just kind of have the authority to kind of smooth everything out and make all the transitions between the data phases a lot more streamlined. So I'm very excited about that. I hope it's successful.
Is this focused just on research data, or is it all data?
This is going to be all data, but I think it's going to spend most of the time on research. But yeah, it's going to be like 50% effort with our HPC Center, I think. But it's also going to talk to like the administrative storage use cases too. But I think it's perfect.
Is it posted already, or are you're waiting to get it posted?
I think the posting closed already. Yeah. Yeah, I think it closed, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm very excited about this position.
I think I see a snippet must be cached on Google, but like I said, I can't get to the actual job description.
Yeah. Because like the executive director it's under is supposed to collaborate with the libraries. So like I'm hoping this position will actually coordinate between like ITs and libraries and any other organizations that provide storage or data services. Right. Because one thing I've noticed at is the only one in the zeitgeist around data management is the library. They're the only ones who have like guides up. Yeah. Okay. Storage person would have to talk for the library to be successful.
I mean, we're having some discussions about research data storage, I mean, specifically research data storage and what kind of solutions we can come up with that would be facilitated through the Office of Research and their research technologies group. Don't have any solutions yet, but we're working on it. But I mean, I do think data management is much more housed in the library at our institution because it's not really the sexy part of it, right? I mean, it's part of a grant, but it's not really like the other entities are really about the grants and the publications and what has impact. And I think that's why they don't express as much of an interest in it. And if we can really show that it's critical, right, that grants don't get funded unless the data management plan is well written and there's teeth behind checking in to see that it's being implemented, then we'll see maybe more interest in it.
Hi, this is Alyssa Kang from Georgetown University. That's all the information that's so helpful. Thank you so much. So at Georgetown, we are actually working on enterprise storage project that was pushed, delayed from last year. So, we start this one, I think, on and off for a few years now, and we haven't really, get a good handle. So we are restarting it. The issue with, I guess the challenge with us was like, we have a very small on-prem storage, capacity, probably just 5 terabytes. And then because our strategy is cloud first, so pretty much what we have been doing the past few years is at least is just to basically encourage people to store everything online, and we have everything else, Google Box, and so, but the thing is, like with research data, what I always say is like you can dissociate the compute from the research, from the data. Because like it really doesn't matter, you push the data to the cloud, but where is the computer resources, right? If you can't actually access the data in the performant manner then you basically amplify the problem. So you would have the data in the storage and you still have to make a copy local, you just a snowball. So we're trying to get a handle of that, but I'm in the central IT, so the storage is managed, everything in the central IT, and then we work with libraries. The library use our services, that we provision places either cloud or on-prem for them, but mostly cloud. And it's a mix. It's hard because it's a mix of administrative data, like the student data, and then all the registration, finance, and everything, and research data. So we just right now we just form a small project team that to handle all this one. So I represent the research part, because we also don't have an archive solution. So many of the PIs I know, they basically just buy multiple NAS. Now it's so cheap, on their desk, and then they do backup, and believe it or not, sometimes all 3 of them would fail around the same time. So but it is really hard. And then we also I think I actually get from this group the information about let me post it, like the Cornell, they have a web page that we are thinking about develop similarly to that, that it basically give make it very transparent, all the options the storage options that university has. So the other part of the data management, especially research data management, it actually has with security, right? So because some of the, especially I deal with medical data as well, and some of them, like it's either HIPAA or not HIPAA, but some of them are in the gray area increasingly because, imaging, brain imaging data used to be, non-HIPAA, but now like NIH, they are discussing, because with all the AI machine learning, you can actually reconstruct a person just based on the brain, the neural scans and stuff like that, and then on top of other information. And like if you have sequencing data, especially sensitive like HIV data, and then you can basically go to the social network, you basically can piece together the person's identity, right? So I think we want to build something like this that actually in behind, based on people's like a researcher's requirement that they should answer either a questionnaire or something about the sensitivity of the data, the size of the data, and also the performance requirement and the archival requirement. Then it help them narrow down to a few options. Then like people like me or other people, other group in the IT would actually talk to them to help figure out which one is the best. And I really benefit from you all to share all those public data repositories, because we do have a challenge there. And I have PIs, who are editors of certain journals, like a physics journal, and say, where can I, for that part of my job, where can I actually have people deposit data that into a repository? And what I based on my limited knowledge, it's like there are a lot of data repositories for medical data, because NIH driving this, NCI is driving that, but not so for chemistry or physics, especially physics. Maybe for astronomy, those type, or weather related. So those things are, because it's driving for social benefits and other things. But for physics, that's very hard to create a repository like that. And with that experimental data, because they generate a huge amount of data as well, but those type without appropriately associated metadata, you really cannot reuse it or share among researchers. So I really I have to go look into each of the link that you provided, and and think. I just wish, like if we want to develop something, that's I always want to have a list of the things, and then maybe have a little curation that say, if you need this kind of repository, then you actually can go to this one, and then make it a self-service for researchers, because there are very limited of us, and there's many of them are really underserved. And then when they are underserved, they just, easy thing for them is just to spend $500 and get an NAS and put it on their desk, right? So, but I wish like this group maybe somehow can help develop a centralized list of all the things and then publish it, so that make more people aware. And I'm willing to help with that. And depending on where our progress is going to be, and I am willing to share that with you with our storage enterprise storage project. We'll see. I once it actually form in good shape, or we actually have some solutions, I am willing to share with the rest of the group.
Nuts. You joined just after the person who was asking for the same thing left. It's Kurt. So yeah, I wonder if he signed in. Oh, Bart, yes, Bart from UC Riverside was asking for the same thing. But to help you out, Alyssa, we've been keeping track of all the links that have been going into chat in one Google Doc for the call. So you only have the one link to remember and bookmark.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, we kind of started putting some stuff in there about some of these repositories, a list of repositories. It's really interesting you mentioned the storage finder. Michigan actually made one based off Cornell. And unfortunately, our researchers are not finding it as helpful.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, why? Can you?
It's just choosing a storage option really gets into the nuances of storage solutions,
Right.
and it's just impossible to kind of codify it like this. And there's also a time component to it, of
Right.
sorts. And like I've been trying to think of a way to like take my storage process in my brain and like write it down. Because there's no one storage solution is the big thing. There's like, you have to
Yeah.
move between several, and those, how you move is also important.
Right. That's also the cost.
Mm-hmm.
Either hidden cost, because in the, the egress, it's free, and but then, when they pull out, it's actually cost money. Other things. So, I really like, I had a high hope for the open storage. I just wish, NSF can actually put in more financial support, and to have more, kind of cost effective, if not free, storage for researchers. Because when you talk about the data life cycle, whether or not it's research data life cycle, to actually keep it properly maintained really costs money. With the research funding, and many, you think about the grant what issue, like success rate, it's like what, 13 to 17%. So majority of the proposals actually didn't get funded. Doesn't mean their research is not meaningful. And so if you actually don't support that kind of the primary research, like without the funding, then you actually can't get to the end, right? And without the proper funding to refresh the storage, you really can't go anywhere. You have money for this 2 years, and then that's it. You actually you just can't sustain it long term. So I really, I'm just hoping, like, there are more publicly funded repositories, either from NSF or NIH, that could actually support the research data lifecycle. I think that they also can negotiate better deals with various vendors to provide as a common goods, like deed, to actually support the research. Because most researchers, it's not like administrative data. Like if your Excel sheet, your finance is out of date, you just need to keep one copy, and then you can probably delete it, and that's it. But you talk to any researchers, they won't delete anything. And if anything at all, they would make more copies of it, whether or not they
It's 2 o'clock.
Oh, sorry, I talk too much.
Yeah, that's my computer. I am bad at looking at the clock, so I have it yell at me.
No, but you know, it's just like there has to be more funding on the data storage as well.
Yep. Yep, but since it is 2, I would like to respect everyone's time. Thank you all for coming. This was definitely a good conversation. And if anybody is interested in continuing particular conversations, just feel free to send an email to the People Network and see who else is also interested, and just get together and talk.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Did you want to tell them about next month? We have one on.
Yes, next month we are having Sandra Giesing from the Science Gateways Institute talk more from the data sharing side of making gateways. So that ought to be exciting.
Well, thanks everyone for coming, and the recording will be up on the CARC YouTube channel soon.